The movie begins in 1920s Oklahoma, with a group of Osage Native American people praying to their gods. As part of their ritual, we see a group of men burying a ceremonial pipe in the ground. Their gods must have heard their prayers, as oil wells were soon discovered in their region. With the help of the newfound oil, the native Osage people started earning and became rich owners of oil fields, living prosperously in their native land of Oklahoma. Years later, we see Ernest, an ex-soldier from World War I, heading towards Oklahoma on a train. He meets Henry, an Osage local at the station who takes him to his uncle's house. Ernest's uncle, named William Hale, is the sheriff of the town. Ernest's brother, Byron, is already there and has been working under William all along. William is happy to see Ernest and takes him inside the house after embracing him. Inside the house, William gets to the point by telling Ernest that he is there for a specific mission. William explains to him that he has been the sheriff of the town and also handles most of the government work for the natives. He is a trustworthy figure in the native community, and the natives respect him. He jokes about whether Ernest likes girls, to which Ernest replies that he likes girls irrespective of differences. William then gives him the job of a driver. He has to drive around an Osage lady named Molly, who belongs to the richest native family around. We come to know that there have been several cases of mysterious deaths of Osage people in the town in recent days. To investigate the killings, Molly hires a private detective named Mr. Burns. She shares with Mr. Burns that the deceased people were all wealthy members of their community, and the occurrences of the murders are not natural at all. Mr. Burns convinces her that he'll investigate the case in depth, as there's a big reward for it. Molly leaves his office and meets Ernest for the first time near her car. He meets an old friend there with his native Osage wife. White Americans are getting married to rich Osage girls to inherit their wealth. With this, Ernest drives away with Molly. Ernest keeps working for her and often tries to strike up conversations with Molly. Though she was hesitant at first, she finally cannot resist his charm. She playfully teases him for being too talkative and calls him the handsome devil. One day, Ernest drives Molly to her Osage family ceremony to name a newborn baby. After the ceremony, Molly gifts him a hat and asks him to stay for dinner. Inside her house, Ernest comes across Molly's mother, Lizzie. The two have a long conversation over dinner, and while having a few drinks after it, she asks him to share more about himself. Ernest explains that he arrived in town some time ago, and it was Uncle William who helped him find a job there. On the mention of William's name, Molly expresses that he's a good man who helps the natives in many ways. Ernest agrees with her, adding that his uncle has always looked out for him and his brother. While having drinks, he mentions that Molly is indeed quite beautiful. The next day, Molly's family is gathered for a native ceremony. Her sister Minnie comes to visit with her white husband, Bill. Her other sisters, Anna and Rita, are also present. The sisters praise Molly's choice, implying to Ernest. Over time, the two have come closer and are quite fond of each other. After the occasion, the two share a happy moment together, and Ernest proposes to Molly for marriage. Molly happily agrees, and the couple gets married in both Catholic and Osage traditions in the presence of all their family members. William seems quite happy with the marriage and congratulates the newlywed couple. During the event, William meets Minnie, who is suffering from degrading health issues. William consoles her by convincing her that nothing is going to happen to her, but after a year, we see that Minnie has died due to her prolonged health issues. Her sisters and her mother are deeply affected by her death. William pays a visit to the mourning family and meets Ernest. He gets straight to the point by stating that after Minnie's death, her share of the property will be inherited by her husband, Bill. For Ernest and William to get their hands on the whole property, Bill and all of Molly's sisters need to be taken care of. As for her mother, Lizzie, she is already getting old, and her health is degrading too. William shares that his next target is Anna, as she's the most troublesome of the sisters. We then move 2 years ahead, when Bill has married Minnie's sister, Rita. Lizzie tells Molly how things have changed drastically after the assimilation of white Americans into their family. Molly doesn't like what her mother is trying to say, and leaves abruptly. Ernest sends Anna off with his brother Byron to a party, but the next day, they find her dead body in a deserted area. An urgent meeting is held, where notable figures of the town gather to discuss the increasing number of Osage murders. They agree to send a representative to the president regarding their problem and ask for a good detective for the investigation. They also decide to put a reward of $1,000 to find the killer. William raises the reward to $2,000, earning respect and praise from the Osage elders. The representative appointed for relaying the message to the president's office is also murdered. In a meeting with Mr. Burns, the detective that Molly had hired previously, suspicions arise that Bill might have something to do with her sister's deaths. Molly is upset by this revelation and can't help but doubt the people closest in her family. Ernest is present in the meeting too and quickly meets William to share the information. Molly and Ernest then meet doctors James and David, who diagnose her with diabetes and prescribe doses of insulin. Later, Ernest meets William, who is not happy with him for doing nothing in the last 4 years to serve their purpose. Ernest admits that he truly loves her, and they already have 2 children. He doesn't want to hurt Molly and hopes to find a way to serve their purpose without having to kill her. William explains that he only wants to see him with all the property under his name, and Ernest must listen to him and act accordingly to avoid trouble. Mr. Burns is later attacked and killed by 2 men in his office. William and Byron meet a person named John, an expert in explosives, and get acquainted for future favors. Doctors James and David visit Molly to give her the insulin dose for her diabetes. Molly asks for Ernest and expresses distrust in the doctors, as they were the ones looking after Minnie, who ended up dying. Ernest, frustrated by her reaction, rants about having to handle so much because of her illness. He then takes the insulin from the doctors and proceeds to inject it into her body himself. Next, we see Henry visiting the doctors in a drunk state. William is there too, informing the doctors that if Henry dies within a month before the expiration of their contract, the doctors will inherit his property, as there's no one else in his family. William then meets Ernest to reveal that Henry is Molly's ex-husband, and they need to take care of him too. He also reminds Ernest of Rita and Bill. Lizzie is seriously ill, and despite doctors James and David's efforts, she dies of her illness, adding another death to the family, which haunts Molly. After a few months, Molly and Ernest pay a visit to William's place. During dinner, William expresses his concern and assures Molly that he's trying his best to find the killer. Molly shares that the private detective she hired for the job has also been mysteriously murdered. It is then revealed that Ernest and Byron were the ones who killed Mr. Burns. Ernest tries to change the topic by announcing that the couple is ready to welcome their 3rd child. Everyone at the table congratulates the couple, but it's clear that William is not quite happy with the announcement. Ernest then meets John, asking him to prepare a big bomb and also assigning him the task to finish Henry. Ernest introduces John to Henry, and the two soon become close, often hanging out together. One day John gets Henry drunk and takes the chance to shoot him dead. Then we see Molly and Ernest welcoming their 3rd child in a family event. Molly realizes that her family is now filled with white people. A few months later, while the couple is sleeping in their bedroom, they hear a loud explosion outside. Ernest goes out to inspect and witnesses that the house where Bill and Rita were living has blown to bits, killing both in the explosion. Molly is devastated by the loss of her last sister. She goes to Washington along with other Osage elders to meet the president personally. After explaining the situation in their town to the president, she returns home. William hands over a bottle of slow poison to Ernest and asks him to mix it gradually into Molly's insulin doses. Byron and the doctors are also present in the room, revealing that the same slow poison was used to kill Minnie and other Osage people. Ernest is confused and doesn't want to use the poison on Molly, but William manipulates him, convincing him that it will only keep her sick, ensuring Ernest gets to run her family business. Ernest reluctantly agrees and starts to mix the slow poison in small amounts into the insulin doses. This keeps Molly bedridden, allowing him to run her family business. Detective Tom White pays a visit to Molly's house and meets Ernest at the door. Tom explains that he's there to investigate the murders on the president's orders and wants to meet Molly. Ernest asks him to come another day, citing Molly's illness, and Tom complies, leaving. Tom and his group initiate a wide-scale investigation by interrogating people. He meets the Osage elders and expresses suspicion regarding William's involvement. The elders dismiss the suspicion, calling William a good person who helps the Osage people in town. Tom emphasizes his assumption, stating that if William isn't involved, why have there been no arrests or conclusions in the case even after so many years? Tom then meets doctors James and David, and subsequently William. William states that he loves the Osage people, and sadly, the situation is getting so bad for them. William then encounters Ernest in the street. Ernest is worried as government detectives intensify the investigation. William calms him by convincing him that he won't let anything happen to Ernest. He asks Ernest not to reveal William's name in case of an arrest, as it would complicate getting him out. Tom observes them from a distance, and then meets an old man on the street. The old man reveals that he saw Byron and another guy with Anna walking into a club the night before her demise. Meanwhile, Molly's health deteriorates as Ernest continues to administer doses of insulin laced with the slow poison. It becomes increasingly difficult for him to witness her in that state, and he adds some slow poison to his drinks too. Tom and his group then arrest Ernest in a store. He is taken in for interrogation. Tom questions whether he is involved in the killings, to which Ernest denies involvement, expressing that his wife is very ill and needs help. Simultaneously, John is arrested. When two officials visit Molly, they witness her dire state and quickly take her to a hospital where she undergoes treatment. Tom approaches Ernest again and informs him that Molly is in the hospital now, urging him to reveal the truth. This time, Ernest admits and discloses William's name, leading to his arrest too. The investigation continues for months, and Molly starts to regain her health. During the court hearing, we are introduced to William's lawyer, Hamilton. He tells the court that he has been denied meeting Ernest the whole time, leading the prosecutor to object. This chaos forces the judge to postpone the hearing. Hamilton then meets Ernest in a room filled with William's family. Hamilton tries to convince him that to save William and Ernest has to completely deny William's involvement in the case. Ernest agrees to do as asked. In the next court hearing, different witnesses are interrogated, and a suspect admits killing Anna alongside Byron. This revelation further adds to the suspicion of William's involvement. Later, Tom meets Ernest in the lockup and informs him about his elder daughter's demise. Ernest is devastated and believes that his sins are finally catching up to him. During the funeral, Molly doesn't care to talk with Ernest at all, and this makes him even more upset. He then goes to meet William to tell him that he's going to spill out everything in the next court hearing, as he doesn't want to be saved anymore. During the next court hearing, Ernest reveals everything and admits to all the crimes he committed along with Byron and William. When he asked about his marriage with Molly and questioned if it was done out of greed or love, he expresses that he truly loves her. The court convicts everyone involved, and the case is closed. Later, we see Tom letting Ernest meet Molly one last time. Ernest seeks forgiveness from Molly, to which Molly asks if he used to add slow poison in her insulin doses. Ernest denies it, and Molly stands up to leave without a word, leaving him confused. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe the Explanation Pro for more interesting contents like this.